So imagine this scenario. You're with a girl, she seems to like you, and then you're gonna go for a kiss, or you're gonna ask her to go grab a drink with you, or you're gonna ask her to go home with you, and all of a sudden, there's an objection of some kind. She seems a little nervous maybe, she hesitates, she says no. What do you do now? And specifically, how do you know where to begin with what to do now? Well, I wanna make a point to you. There's two different ways that she can have an objection. One is what I call an objection, and the other is what I call a condition. Okay, now an objection means that she has an emotional problem with it, right? There's something in her that she's emotionally not ready. Maybe she doesn't like you enough. Maybe she doesn't feel comfortable yet. Maybe she just has never done this before and she's unsure of the general situation, doesn't know what to do next. Maybe she's nervous she'll embarrass herself. There's something emotional coming from within her that is an objection. And the key thing is coming from within her. Secondly, you have a condition. A condition is an outside factor influencing her decision. So this could be something like she's there with her friends and she has to drive them home tonight. Or she's there with her friends and she doesn't want to embarrass herself. Or maybe she has to get up early in the morning and she's worried that you'll keep her out all night. There's some factor in the outside world that's preventing her from doing the thing. Okay, now why is this an important distinction? Well, here's the thing. If the objection is internal to her, number one, you want to handle it with her directly, but number two, you want to handle it on an emotional level. You want to handle it based on improving her experience with you, because that's what's going to overcome that particular objection. If the objection is external to her, all of the getting her in a better mood in the world is not actually addressing the key factor, because the key factor isn't her, it's a factor outside of her. And when that's the case, you don't need to change the emotions of the situation, you need to problem solve. You need to help her find a solution to the problem she's having. Because the problem she's having is she would like to do it, but she can't because of this factor. And if the problem's internal to her and you spend a lot of time on outside factors, you're wasting your time. You're also showing very much that you're not in touch with her, and that's gonna put her off. Similarly, if it's an outside factor and you spend the time getting her more and more in the mood, getting her more and more emotionally ready for things, you haven't addressed the problem, and if anything, you may sort of overcook her. You may seem try-hard, you may seem pushy, you may seem like you're out of touch as well. All right, so it's so critical to make this distinction. And again, just to reemphasize, objection means it's coming from inside her, and it's likely emotional. Condition means it's coming from an external source, and it is probably logical. So let's talk about some common objection scenarios. And again, just as a reminder, objections are when the resistance is coming from inside of her rather than from an external factor, and when it's likely emotional in nature rather than logical. Very common one that comes up is you're one-on-one with the girl, maybe just in isolation, maybe on a date, something like that, and you go to kiss the girl, and she either shies away, gives you the cheek, something like that, okay? Well, let's look at what's happening here, and let's look at how most guys handle it. Most guys, they get reactive to the fact that they just got a rejection, puts them in their head, and in their head means logical. So they start going point by point, trying to explain what's going on. Is something wrong? How are you feeling? Did I do something? How do you feel about me? Do you not like me? And that's the absolute worst thing to do. You're bringing her logical mind into it, and in a very negative way. What should you do instead? Instead, what you should do is, first of all, realize that you made sort of a social blunder a little bit, back off, chill out, relax, and then what you want to do is change her mood, not her mind. In this case specifically, you want to up the mood. You want to create more arousal, create more attraction, create more fun, more of a positive vibe and good energy, and then only once the energy is good again, then you're going to go ahead and try again, okay? So you're going to back off, change her mood, not her mind, deal with it emotionally rather than logically, and then once the vibe is good again, then you'll go ahead and try again. Okay? Next one. Let's say you've gotten a girl home and you're starting to escalate back at your house, and then she's like, no, I'm not that kind of girl, or I'm not gonna sleep with you tonight, something like that. Okay? Again, what do guys do? They get in their head and some guys get angry and like kick the girl out even, which is really, really bad. But a lot of guys, they start like, oh, I'm sorry, did I do something wrong? Do you not like me? Is there something in that you feel this way? Or they get very, very discursive about it. They want to have a discussion. They want to make this thing that just happened a big deal, and they want to get answers on it. Again, completely the wrong way to go about it. What you want to do in this case, again, change her mood, not her mind. In this case, she's already gotten all the way home with you. You've probably done some physical stuff before, so it's probably not a case of not enough attraction, sometimes, but usually in this case, it's not enough comfort. So what you're gonna do here is change the vibe, change the mood to one of more comfort, right? Spend some more time with her, get to know her a bit better, open up to her, relax and chill out, maybe even move away from her physically and let her, just be comfortable with the fact that you're not gonna be pushy and that you aren't needy in any way. all right? And then once again, the vibe is good, you've built some more connection, things have come around, then you can go ahead and try again, all right? Sometimes even just like feeling that she knows you a little tiny bit will make a big difference. You share one good intimate story about yourself, that can make all the difference in a case like this. But again, it's the emotional nature of the story that's doing it, not like some kind of like factual discursive thing, okay? So again, change her mood, not her mind, when it's an objection. Finally, let's talk about shit tests, right? When a girl gives you something like, what makes you think you're so good? Or I bet you say this to all the girls, those kind of things, okay? The reason women give shit tests, it's not a logical thing. It's not like they're thinking to themselves, I sort of like this guy, but I'm not so sure. What could I calculatedly do to test this guy? It's not like that. It's an instinctive biological response to the fact that they're attracted but uncomfortable at the same time. So what do? They throw out this sort of test that's designed to kind of push you away, but it's a little bit playful, and it's not like a fuck off, it's not them leaving, etc. So that's where a shit test comes from. A shit test by its nature is emotional. So how do you deal with it? You deal with it emotionally. You deal with it by showing you're not reactive. You deal with it by being high value. Occasionally later in set, you can deal with it by building comfort. There's a whole topic called comfort shit test. I've done videos on that as well. But in any case, you're dealing with it on an emotional level. What you don't want to do is logically persuade her, right? You don't want, if she says like, do you say this to all the girls? You'll be like, well, actually, the fact of the matter is I've been learning pickup for a really long time, and I really think that that's a positive quality because no. Don't get into a discussion about it, okay? You don't get into a discussion. Don't work on her logical mind. Change her mood, not her mind. This is how you deal with objections. So let's talk about some common examples of conditions. And again, conditions are external factors that keep the girl from going somewhere or doing something with you, even though she emotionally might want to. One of the most common examples of this is the girl's friends, and particularly her fear of either being judged by her friends or the fact that the friends impose a logistical restriction. So for example, maybe she would like to do something with you, but she knows that if she leaves, her friends will know she left, and that will affect her reputation. Or it may be that she actually drove there with the friends, or that the friends, one of the friends has the key to her house or is staying with her, something along those lines. And so again, it'll either be inconvenient for the friends or it will make her look slutty with the friends, all right? Now this is not something that you're gonna solve through getting her more aroused and more emotional. A lot of guys try and do this. Like, oh, the friends, okay, I'll just make out with her more. I'll just like finger her in the club. Doesn't really work because you're not solving the actual thing. And in fact, what may happen is you get too pushy, too try hard. If anything, if the friends are gonna object, if they see that, they're gonna be like, oh shit, like this girl's definitely like slutty as hell, and the friends will actually pull her away. So how do you solve this? You have to solve it logically, and what you need to do actually is help her to solve her problem. And here's where you need to get a little bit creative because there are a lot of different solutions to these kind of problems. Examples of solutions to the friend problem. One is have her just text her friends, hey, I got a little, I'm a little tired, gonna call it a night. Just have her text her friends that so that gets her out of trouble. Another one is if she sees you with her friends, you can tell her, hey, just tell them that, we're friends from middle school and we're just catching up, right? Then if she hangs out with you and gets to know you, it's not a big deal because it's not perceived of as this like man to woman sexual thing. It's perceived of as it's okay, it's just social, and it gives her that excuse to get away with it. If it's a logistical issue with the friends, sometimes you can get away with doing something like, oh yeah, we're just gonna go check something out for like 5-10 minutes, we'll be right back, your friends won't even know you're gone. So there are a lot of creative solutions to the friends issue, but there is a solution needed. One interesting solution to the friends issue that can come up is sometimes you just have sex with her right in the club, and then she doesn't even have to leave the club. She'll be right there for the friends as well. Again, there are various creative solutions, but this isn't a situation where you're just getting her more aroused. It's a situation where she has a factual, tangible problem, and you need to come up with a solution for it. Next, very, very common one you'll run into, especially when you start talking to really, really hot girls, is you'll run into girls that are paid to be hot. They're literally at work when you meet them being hot. Girls in like certain high-end shops, bartenders, waitresses, strippers, those kind of things. They have certain restrictions where they can't be seen to be giving out their number to a client. They can't be seen to be going home with a client because it would reflect on their reputation, and their coworkers would see it. It would reflect on their status at work. And so you have to be a little creative here. So a lot of times you need to either, examples of things that I do to solve these problems. One is with a shop girl, sometimes they'll be like, yeah, you know what, just pretend to sell me this shirt because I don't want you to get in trouble with your boss. That gives her a premise to talk to you that seems normal, seems like it's doing her job, so she won't get in trouble. She won't be seen as flirting with you pointlessly, and therefore it won't cause an issue for her. Another one is a lot of times if you need to close a girl's number sort of in front of coworkers, it's very important to give her a premise of, oh yeah, here's this hobby we have in common here. I actually know a connection. Why don't you, here, I'll text you over the information for this person. I'll text you over the information for this event because that could be really cool for you. So it's not in the context of let's go on a date so her coworkers can't object to it. Again, you're giving her a way around it. Or oftentimes you may even have to settle for, say, closing her on social media or something like that because it's perceived differently in front of the coworkers. So again, these are different ways you're going to solve the problem. I can tell you one time when I pulled a stripper from the club, I didn't actually pull her. What I actually did was we exchanged contact information with each other, and then I went around the corner and had her come meet me around the corner because she didn't want to be seen leaving the club with a guy because it would have affected her reputation, okay? The final situation you're going to run into in a lot is logistics. Let's say that the girl drove with friends, or let's say that the girl has work in the morning. All right, these kind of things, there are tangible, factual things. She has a job and they're expecting her there, or she has a car and it has to get home somewhere, or her friend has to get home somewhere, that kind of thing. In this case, every situation is going to be unique and different. There are different things you can do. You can suggest cabs and Ubers. You can suggest going quickly and coming back. You can suggest calling in sick to work the next day. So there are a lot of different solutions, and everyone really is going to be a different case. But the important thing to realize is there is a real external condition, an external factor going on in her decision-making process. So just getting her more into you, just getting her to like you more, just getting her more aroused won't cut it. You have to actually get creative and solve the actual problem. So now I want to share with you some quick tips for how to identify objections versus conditions. Remember, in general, rule of thumb, if it's coming inside of her, it's an objection. If it's external, it's a condition. However, there are some interesting borderline cases. For example, if the girl mentions her friends, sometimes it's, the friends are a legitimate obstacle. The other one is she's uncomfortable because she doesn't know you that well. She doesn't want to introduce you to the friends, or she's uncomfortable and she's just using the friends as an excuse. So her saying friends doesn't necessarily always mean objection, always mean condition. It can fall either way. So how do you handle these borderline cases? I'm going to give you a couple of rules of thumb. First one is ask yourself why. Ask yourself what her motivation is. So instead of just taking the thing at face value, try and assess why is she doing this. And if the why seems to be coming from inside of her, it's more of an objection. If the why seems to be coming from the external world, it's more of a condition. The next one is look at the overall context. Don't just look at the one action in a vacuum. Look at how the overall set has been going. The longer she's spent with you, the more likely that it's not an objection because she's committed to you, bought into you for longer. Also, the more she has seemed to like you, has seemed to participate, has seemed to escalate in your favor or help things progress, the more likely it is she likes you. Therefore, the objection is not coming from her. It's a legitimate external condition, okay? So the longer you are in set, and the more she seemed to like you, the more often it is that you're gonna have to problem solve rather than pump her mood or pump her state. If it's very early on, it's very likely that you need to deal with her mood first, all right? And then the final rule of thumb is, if in doubt, err on the side of assuming that it's an objection. The reason for that is this. If you assume that it's an objection and you're wrong, at least you will have built the vibe and the mood, and you'll kind of still be there and things will still be going well for you to switch and address it as a condition. But if it's an objection and you start treating it as a condition, you're getting very logical, you're ruining the mood, you're actually kind of going backwards, and you're going to lose your ability to adapt. Okay, so if in doubt, assume objection first, condition second. Okay, so those are some tips on exactly how to identify which it is, but remember the core point, most of all, which is identify if it's an objection or a condition and handle it the right way. I promise you those resistances you're getting, the things that are holding you back from success when girls seem to like you either a little bit or a lot already, those are gonna just melt away once you start handling them in the proper manner.